Greetings, and welcome to House of R.
Very special episode.
We have Ryan Condal here with us today, House of the Dragon showrunner, to talk to us about the season 3 finale, season 3 overall, the series overall. We're just gonna dive right in, but if you're wondering, where's the deep dive? It's still coming.
Coming tomorrow.
Stay
Also, I cut
tuned.
you off. I should just say, that's Mallory, Rubin. I'm Joanna Robinson. Just in case you're tuning in for the first time to see Ryan Condal, that's who we are. This is House of R. We go deep on House of the Dragon every single episode. So if you're just like hopping in for this Ryan Condal interview, we will be back again tomorrow with hours upon hours
That's right.
of discussion of the finale.
Instant reaction already up with Chris Ryan for Talk the Thrones. Check that out. And stay tuned to see what else awaits the rest of the summer, the fall. We got all sorts of good stuff coming. Follow along on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the Ringerverse YouTube channel and follow at House of Our Pod.
We're huge book readers, but there are no book spoilers in this conversation with Ryan Condal.
Correct.
All safe for you to enjoy if you're just a show watcher.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you to hear what he has to say.
All right, what a treat. Back on the podcast for, I believe, the 4th time, which might be a record.
Wow.
Season 2 primer, a brief appearance on a House of Recommends episode, and, of course, the props extravaganza. It's House of the Dragon showrunner Ryan Condal. Welcome back.
Hi, guys. Very good to be here.
Thanks for coming.
We're thrilled. We have 975 questions for you, but
Correct.
we'll try to cut it down as we go in real time. We'll see. Hot off the finale, we have so many things we're excited to dive into and discuss. Theme, lore, character. Want to start with morality, the moral gray, because Team Black is by design increasingly hard to root for as the story unfurls. And obviously the finale gave us some nice child murder and betrayal and a slaying of the man of the cloth, etc. to further that. Team Green, meanwhile, has proven to be, I think Joe and I would both say, more empathetic than we or most book readers ever dreamed possible. How, as you now wrap up season 3 and think about season 4 and just in general, adapting this story, how do you balance living in the moral gray that is so essential to the story's core intention and certainly to the core focus of the corrupting nature of power, while giving audiences characters to root for? Or is part of the appeal to you interrogating what it is that we root for and why, and what the limits of that devotion and empathy might be, and assessing, why and how people lose their way, whether, and when they do, whether there's a path back from that descent?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mallory. I think, Sarah and I were much more interested in the exploration of the moral gray, and feeling like the original show gave us the kind of classic goodies and baddies within a morally gray landscape. But we can all pretty much agree that like everybody at some point was rooting for Jon Snow and Daenerys, and everybody was rooting against most of the Lannisters at some point. Whereas this show, it felt like to take the thing and kind of move it on. Not that we're trying to make all deplorable characters, but it felt like we needed less of that sort of white hats and black hats that we had in the original show, because the show had done the hard work of establishing this world where that doesn't really generally exist. And we were just more interested in portraying these very complex characters that at times you could find sympathy and empathy for, and times could be rooting for, and other times you could be kind of horrified by them and their actions. And I think we've done that fairly successfully throughout the 3 seasons as it kind of goes up and down. And I love the response following episode 7, because we're recording this before anybody has really reacted to episode 8. The public has reacted to episode 8. But I love the response to episode 7, where so many people have like texted me and they're like, basically like, "You fucker, I'm rooting for Aegon now. How did that happen?"
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And also credit to Tom Glenn Carney's wonderful performance. I mean, it's such a human sympathetic performance, and the things that he's been through this year in the Crucible. So I love all that, and I think we always promised as a show that you would kind of flop back and forth between Team Green and Team Black, and that didn't mean that you would be doing that in episode 3 of the show. It just meant that like over the course of the series, you would have these kind of tugs and pulls in either direction. And I think what this series has revealed this year is everybody loves an underdog. And now that the table is totally flipped and Rhaenyra and Daemon are in the power position, and Aegon and Aemond, all the people that you thought would be all powerful for all time, now that they're the underdogs, people are kind of interested in what they're doing.
Sunfire, taking the world by storm.
Sunfire. Yes, everybody likes a little. I've learned that people really like kind of disfigured dragons in Sheepstealer and Sunfire, two of our most popular market research testers.
Considering everything you just said about Aegon, Rhaenyra, Daemon, all the rest, and where you wanted to land here at the end of the season, was there a particular character arc that going into the season, knowing where you were beginning and knowing where you wanted to end by episode 8, you were most, concerned about, focused on? You were like, this is the one we really, really have to nail this season, and it's going to be the biggest challenge?
Well, it just felt like Aegon and Rhaenyra. It felt like the two, now that those two are kind of sitting at the center of the dance, which was, again, always the plan. It just takes a couple of seasons to get there. It felt like if we could do the magic trick of taking Rhaenyra into the sort of the edge of the abyss, perhaps, starting to cross over, and then bringing Aegon back from it and having this redemption, this kind of Arthurian redemption arc, where he draws the dragon from the stone, so to speak, and has people rooting for him. It felt like we could really, then we had done our jobs, because you've really taken the audience on a ride and ended them in an unexpected place, and in a way that vaults you, hopefully rather excitingly, into the final chapter, the final act of this thing. Because really then, hopefully the feeling is that I don't know where any of this is going, in a good way. I don't know what to expect. I can't predict the end of this and how it's going to go, and who I'm going to be rooting for or feeling sorry for, or the unexpected tragedy, those kinds of things. We really want to put people there in the classic sort of Game of Thrones way.
We want to ask you about a character who a lot of those things apply to, is not in the season, but certainly loomed over every minute of it, Viserys.
Yeah.
The specter of Viserys and his legacy and his choices. It was obviously inescapable intentionally this season for many of the characters and for many of the storylines, but obviously most of all, particularly for Rhaenyra, whose relationships to the ideals and the methods that he represented and that he espoused has undergone real evolution, especially in the last couple episodes. Curious, can Rhaenyra, the two wolves inside of us all, balance pushing past the idea of living in that shadow and feeling like what Viserys, the peaceful, said had to be the policy or the approach that Rhaenyra tries to enact, and reject that, as Rhaenyra did start to do at the end of the season, as not befitting this moment in time, while still then hanging on to and maintaining sight of the series-defining lessons that he set the tone with at the very beginning of the series, about the harbingers over control and dragon power and illusions and the lessons of the doom of old Valyria, etc. Can she forge her own path and own identity but still hold on to what he taught her, or is the rejection more sweeping than that?
Yeah, I think that was the big question for Rhaenyra over the course of the season, is could two things be true at the same time? Could she hang on to the things that made Viserys kind of a questionable king, but made him choose her to be heir, and also be an effective ruler as a female during wartime? And that's the thing that she's struggling with the entire season. And that's why we kind of set up the triangle of Mysaria, Daemon, Rhaenyra, because while Mysaria's political message is slightly different from Viserys, it's more of a kind of populist message. She is Rhaenyra's conscience and the reminder of the lessons that Viserys taught her over the course of the season, whereas Daemon is Daemon, fire and blood, right? The prophecy justifies anything that we need to do. We need to burn out our enemies. You need to kill Daeron. All the things he's telling her. We're empire builders. You're worried about the missing coin in King's Landing. We should be thinking about Dorne and conquering Essos and all those things that one would totally expect Daemon to do. That's completely the right lesson for Daemon to take away from his experiences at Harrenhal last year. It's like, well, now we can do anything we want because it's meant to be. So that's Rhaenyra's pull: is can I have enough of Daemon in me to be strong and be seen as legitimate and be taken seriously and feared enough to rule and still be Viserys. And she's trying and trying and trying all season long. And then Daemon lies to her. She catches out his deception over Rhaena and Sheepstealer. Mysaria is in her ear about this is why you can't trust this guy. And then Aegon comes back. And not only that, but the brilliant political move she thought she made of just declaring him dead has now bitten her in the ass because his dragon and him have been resurrected. And you know how people love a sign, a religious sign, and he's a high tower and the Starry Sept and all these things. And now she's created King Arthur, essentially. If she had just said, he's missing, we don't know where he is, please help me find him, maybe it doesn't have this, there's not this magical sort of aura around his return, but now she kind of created this thing, and then she just snaps, because the thing that she's been looking for all season is to be seen as that by the public, and then he comes, he comes back with his disfigured dragon, and suddenly everybody's worshiping the guy again because people love an underdog and people love a male king. So that's the thing that finally sends her over the edge, and she's just like, Mysaria has to go, and no offense to Mysaria the person, but Mysaria the ideology has to go. And I now have to completely throw in with Daemon's philosophy if I have any hope of winning this thing and hang on to the throne.
So thanks, Alicent, for that brilliant idea to declare Aegon dead, I guess.
3D chess, maybe Alicent's 4D chess that Alicent's playing.
Oh, man.
I did want to ask you about Mysaria. You sort of answered my question as to sort of why Rhaenyra sent her away. If you're like, if she represents Rhaenyra's conscience to a certain degree, she needed to send her away. So I guess like if there's anything more you want to say about that, but also whatever you can say maybe for book readers who might be thinking about Mysaria out there. She's forever missing her ride out of Westeros, right? So she's out here in the streets of King's Landing. She might have a grudge. Book readers might be making some connections to some things that they know that might be coming, that Mysaria might slot into another character. Anything you want to say about that, Ryan Condal?
I mean, certainly Mysaria's business is not over. And I think Rhaenyra realized that she could not hold the center at home with Mysaria and Daemon playing in the same space. Like one had to eventually go, because it was going to come to a head in some way or another. And they're both cutting at each other behind their back. They're in Rhaenyra's ear. And also Rhaenyra doesn't know what they're doing outside of her purview, right? She doesn't know who they're talking to and what kind of alliances they've formed on the side. I mean, Daemon seems less likely to have done that, just knowing Daemon. He works more with steel and fire. But Mysaria is secrets and whispers and lies are kind of her trade. So I think Rhaenyra is thinking about all those things and tries to send her away in a way that's like, the golden parachute to Essos. But I think Mysaria, that wasn't what Mysaria was looking for. She was looking for access to the throne and the to realize the rise that she saw over the course of the last 2 seasons. She's not quite ready to go yet. And then when she sees the turn in Rhaenyra, she goes, that great shot that that Andre got and that Sonoya performed is I think the oh hell no shot. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Mysaria's business is not done in the city.
Got it.
Our theory brains are activated.
We're cooking.
We'll say that. Speaking of our theory brains, something that, when Joe and I do our deep dives, we spend a obviously astonishing amount of time talking about every detail of the show. And then at the very end, we do book spoiler sections. We're obviously not going to talk about spoilers here, but now that the finale has aired, we can say like one of the things we were talking about throughout the season was, they're going to find a way to keep Ormund alive because this is just like so fun, right? And so there's obviously, we knew that Ormund was fated to die at Tumbleton in the finale of the season, but James Norton was just so amazingly entertaining in the role. And Ormund was just such a delicious villain from the word go, from minute one. We're curious, even though, again, without getting into any particulars, obviously, there are story reasons for him to be gone at this point and things that will happen after. Did you consider, when you saw how, instantly indelible this performance was going to be, did you consider keeping him around longer beyond the Battle of Tumbleton?
James is so great. He's such a delight. He's just one of those people that has that like aura around him, and just everybody is just happy in his presence. And he's so goddamn handsome. It's really infuriating.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm only a couple of years older than him, but I was looking at it, I was like, how have we aged so differently when we're basically born in the same year? I guess writing versus acting maybe had something to do with it, but some
go.
goddamn good genes there. But no, I mean, on a practical level, like one of the reasons we were able to get a fantastic actor like that is because we promised him it was like a one, sort of a one season commitment. And I think he actually loved he loved doing the show, and was actually very, very sad and sorry to go. And I think had a great time. And, he had his own experience producing a medieval action show with King and Conqueror, with friend of the universe Nikolai Coster-Waldau. So I think he came into it with this sort of, oh my god, like look at all the toys that you have. This is wonderful, and this is so amazing, and the custom armor and the custom sword. He had this really kind of nice producerial reaction to being on the show. So we loved having him around, and he was great. But I think one of the things I always say, like, being a good showrunner is you have to let the show speak to you, and you have to be in communication with the show, and it can't always be what you want. You have to sometimes have the show tell you what you want. A great example of that is like Freddie Fox, Gwen Hightower. We thought he was fantastic when he auditioned. He came in, we had this plan for him, and then he just delighted everybody. And it's like, well, this feels, and because he's a Hightower with relations sort of everywhere, bringing Ormond into the story, just feels like something that we can exploit to the show's benefit. But then there are other times when I think you have to like just leave them wanting more, in a way where this was the perfect arc for Ormond, and to have him go out that way because of his two sort of perhaps biggest flaws, his smell and substance issues, and his rage issues kind of coming to a head in that final act of the episode. It just felt like the right way to go. Plus, his arc sort of serves to tee up the core Greens, who have been kind of on the run and on the lam, and the work that Ormond did has empowered Aegon and Aemond in ways that they do not yet realize. So it felt like that it was a glorious sort of passing of the torch.
Let's talk about the brothers, Aegon and Aemond. This is I think it's okay to say, I don't think this isn't in the book. This doesn't happen in the book that Aegon and Aemond get to meet in this episode, like the way that they do. Why was it important to you to bring Aegon and Aemond together here in the Harrenhal sequence in the finale?
Well, we wanted to tee up what was to come. And this is a good example of, though it is not in the book, it does not necessarily mean that it could not have happened. Simply because Aegon sort of disappears from the record, we know he reappears over. And we don't, we know that he does not interact with Aegon again in the text, but that doesn't mean that he didn't. It just means that the historians writing the book didn't have a record of it. So there it's a reasonable extrapolation that they could have crossed paths again and had plans, and maybe that's why the famous event that is yet to come for book readers happens in the way that it does. I mean, I think it's a reasonable extrapolation. For us, this is a great example of just like the difference between a TV show and a book. You have to exploit moments like this to bring your core central characters back together at moments of high drama. And we're heading into the final act here, and it's so clear now. The sides have been so well kind of set up. You have Rhaenyra and Daemon at the core on the black side. You have Aemond and Aegon the core on the green side, with Alicent out there and kind of a perhaps a free agent, so to speak. We'll see what happens when she comes back to King's Landing in possession of all the Valyrian soldiers that have her. And then you have the other sort of, the black free agents that are out there, Baela and Rhaena, et cetera, et cetera. But the sort of core four, Rhaenyra, Daemon, Aemond, Aegon, it feels like that was the right place to set us up, vaulting us into season 4, because that's largely who the story is going to be about at this point in the telling.
I think, since you hit there, the distinction between a book, a text, and making a TV show, I want to kind of linger there for a second and ask you about the public declaration of the prophecy. Because in case there's anybody in the world, whether or not they're on this Zoom right now, who has been like, how did this not make the history books if Daemon said it at a small council meeting? And then, of course, let's by an order of magnitude expand that when Rhaenyra shouts it from the words of the Sept. Really curious to hear how you've been thinking about this because, on the one hand, of course, Westerosi history is peppered with like slight tweaks and variations of some sort of savior prophecy that kind of feels like of a piece and of the same textual heft. And to go back a few seasons and a few years when House of the Dragon started, like I remember Joe and I were sitting next to each other at the premiere watching it, and like gasped when Aegon's dream, the Song of Ice and Fire, was introduced in the story. And from that minute onward, it's been such a source of fascination to us, not only for all of the character-rich reasons, like what do you do if this is a thing hanging over you, right? We've talked about that probably every single pod we've done since, but also just thinking about these questions of like, okay, when did this version, the Targaryen-specific version of this prophecy, maybe get lost? Who passed it along when Rhaegar's discovering something in the scrolls? Is it the dagger of prophecy? Like, we've been nerding out about this stuff for so long. And so I'm curious, like, how did it not make the history books, this specific version of it, if Rhaenyra made a big stump speech about it in front of the masses? Or like, were they all like, we're focused on the new eye makeup and the new look?
I love the eye makeup.
Could be that.
I'd be
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, Emma came to me one day and they were like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
Wow. Incredible.
A genuinely incredible choice.
Yeah.
Sure. When Emma Darcy and then, Amanda Knight, who did all of the makeup for all of the Harry Potter movies and then basically every big thing since. So they're like, this is our plan. You're just like, yep, that's cool. Were those materials available multiple times? Yes, they were. Cool. I'm good with it.
Yeah. There you go.
So, I mean, that's a great question. I think, I think this falls into the category of, Targaryens probably say some crazy shit during the darkest parts of their reign. And we know that Rhaenyra was looked down upon at this point by the public. And look, in the book, admittedly, she kind of locks herself inside and is grieving and gets thick of waist and all the things that the book tells. We needed a more, we needed an active character to be the main character of this show.
Yeah.
That was not that doing that story in its sort of fullness would not really have worked on in this TV series. So that's where we come back to. You have to look at how histories are written. And it feels like if you read Fire and Blood with the eye towards you have these three historians that sort of have an agenda, or at least two of them, because, Mushroom, his agenda is just the horniest version of history possible.
Yeah.
But these two historians that kind of have an agenda to not to like be all team green, but to kind of lay the blame for this horrible war that killed so many and that killed off the dragons and that weakened the Targaryen dynasty at the feet of, if not just Rhaenyra and Alicent, sort of for starting it. That was a very interesting place for Sarah and I to work from in the crafting of the show. And that's not to say nothing in the book happened and we throw it all out. It's just we had to have certain looks at meta looks at the way histories are put together and written. And it just feels to me that is something that if you're trying to reconcile that, versus the book, this is part of the Maegor with Teats story and Rhaenyra becoming this despot and really desperately hanging on to power. And if you think of all these small folk who have never heard anything about magic and prophecies, and then the crazy lady from the Red Keep comes out in the Joan of Arc suit of armor and then says a bunch of shit about being the chosen one. It just that's also why we had her say the Prince of this Promise in High Valyrian, because none of them know what she's none of them know what she's saying. So look, we're taking liberties clearly, but it felt right and correct for the television show, and it feels like with a sort of, broad objective eye towards the way history is written generally, it feels like it could possibly have just not made the record simply because they're doing do we believe that this happened? Do we believe that not?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that she was sort of an angry despot at this moment in in the history.
Right.
I have the next question. I just want to really quickly, and our editor's going to apologize that I'm like plunging into darkness.
It's very dramatic, moody lighting.
Really nothing I can do at this point. And our producers were like, hey, Joanna, if you rely on sunlight, that might not go well. So listen.
This is your version of this is my new eye makeup.
Yeah.
And it's going to really set the tone.
The dark night of the soul over here. Sorry about that.
Are you just going to be two like Daffy Duck cartoon eyes in the darkness soon?
Possibly. Okay. Speaking of sort of, I don't know, taking liberties, or I wouldn't put it that way for this part, but like the backstory for Alys Rivers, you get to write a backstory for Alys Rivers, who's such a mysterious character in the book. What was it like to come up with that backstory, and what were some of the, why this version of her origin?
I wish I could remember who pitched that, and it's one of those things where it came so out of the collective, and this is one of the things that this came in the course of breaking season 2. So this is something we've been sitting on for a while, because there was a lot of it was like, well, how do Alys is great fun, but how do we just keep her from just being the creepy witch lady that seems to know the right things at the right time? She has to have her own kind of internal story and backstory and the reasons she's actually here. And you definitely get less of that with Daemon, because I think she was playing Daemon a different way. I think Alys sort of can read people and know what they need. And definitely Daemon needed somebody more at arm's length, and Aemond needed somebody very close that could kind of get in his head, get in his soul, and really appeal to him. So we really did a lot of work on that, on her, and we were kind of around and around about it. We had a lot of great ideas, but it's like, how do we knit all this together into a cohesive thing where you can look even back at the Daemon story and go, oh, I get what this all was. But it was really exciting when that came forward in the room, because it sort of was the grand unifying theory to sort of bring all this together. And we now know Alys's motivation and the wheres and whys. And it was exciting in a way to tie back to the history of the castle and the great lore around that. I mean, that's probably, other than the ancient Targaryens, it's probably the most sort of wondered about character or characters or house, right? House Harren.
Yeah.
Or no, it's House Whore, right?
Yeah, Harren Whore. Yeah.
Yeah, which just, is, so Alys, we were doing
Alys Whore.
Sounds like something Daemon would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe her name wasn't Alys at the time. Maybe she's just going by Alys.
A rebrand.
Whatever. I mean, I imagine Lady Harren's name was not Alys, because people would just go, oh, that's weird that they have the same name. But yeah, it was really exciting. It was fun to play with. It kind of knit everything together, and also kind of leaves open the idea that, maybe this is also just the story that Alys told Aemond, which is also a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
Intriguing.
But we really like it, and certainly it helped Gail out a lot in portraying the character, and she got many, many stern warnings from me, as you do press. Remember, this comes out in the final episode, so please don't speak about it as you're motivating raison d'etre from what the things you're doing in like the second episode. So yes.
I would say that other than vampires and musicals, Joanna's most fervent passion in life is witch stuff go.
Correct.
So we just hit that, and we'll move into my number one passion, which is dragons. But it's all, of a piece in terms of magic and the fantasy.
Alys has dragon
That's
eggs,
right.
So
and
it's a good crossover for you guys.
I mean, just an absolute thrill for us. The the opening of the Creative Eggs this season, we had a blast. I have cried on this podcast before talking about the way that this show has captured something really elemental about what fantasy lovers, lovers of genre stories who find something about that connection and that bond can appreciate when they're watching something like, I don't know, Meleys and Rhaenys sharing a look in their final moments together, right? So I'm curious, this was such a fascinating season for exploring things that could in some ways feel like they are contradictions or at odds with each other, but ultimately are all part of this is where my Baltimore accent comes out and Joe makes fun of me. Part of the brew. Going down to the ocean, hon, part of the brew. The dragon bond, the centrality of that. We've got the warnings about the hubris of control, the illusion of control, right? The Viserys Harbingers and other characters have voiced, very recently at the penultimate of the season, we had Halaena voicing a lot. Are you not altered? Right? We're hearing this throughout the series, and it's something that's on our minds. We're watching Gullet, etc., Shipbreaker Bay, the inability for the writers to control their dragons. One of our favorite, subtle examples of that this season was Caraxes telling Daemon to fuck off as he flew into the Mountain of the Moon, as Daemon is about to go lecture Rhaena on the dragon bond, right? Just delicious. So we have that. And then we have Aegon and Sunfire, on and on the list goes. Vhagar's eye flashing in Aemond's dream. The examination and genuine, sincere interest of and appreciation for centering this bond. We've talked a lot on the pod about the Fire and Blood passage that we love, about the dragons can channel their writers' love and hate, and obviously so much in the canon about the nature of that bond is mysterious and still shrouded in questions. So, I think one of the things that I love so much about the show is the way that the aspects of the dragon riding lore and mythology, when they are brought to the fore and fleshed out for us, it's consistently done through character arc and theme. And I'm wondering, just as an adapter and as the person, making the show, which part of that is most interesting to you? Is it that you feel that it is an important paramount thing in a fantasy story, in the dance of the dragons, where dragon war and the cost of dragon war, men are like dust beneath their feet? This has to be centered. It has to be questioned, the doom of old Valyria. Or is there something about the way that the dragons center the questions about power, strength, the choices we make, the hubris that can lead us astray, that you find yourself drawn to when it comes to unlocking the thematic questions that are most central for the human characters?
Yeah, I'm interested in all of it. The big thing, we're making the show that has 17 dragons in it, and look, whether we see every little one of them, but there were 17 dragons at this time in history. There better be distinguishing factors amongst them that aren't just what color are they,
right?
And if you're going to make them, if you're going to spend all the money and all the time and effort doing this, they better damn well be interesting. And the way that you make them interesting is by interlinking them with the human characters in the show, and also weaving them into the thematics of the show. And one of the big thematics of this show is, particularly this season, is this idea of mutually assured destruction, and the fact that you have these nuclear weapons on both sides of the conflict that happen to be living sentient beasts with minds of their own, and some of them have been put into hands of the untrained and people that do not have years of loyalty and legacy behind them, like the Ulfs and the Hughes of the world, to keep them in line, because Ulf isn't worried about dishonoring his house because he has no house, right? So all of those things kind of feed into thematics and then character interaction. And we felt like the way to, because look, you sit there for, really, I don't see proper dragons until April before the show comes out. I'm looking at guys in blue unitards.
Our guy Callum.
Yeah, exactly. Bless him.
Killing it.
Bless him. Totally committed all the time. Committed forever. But that's what you're looking at, as you're cutting the show and trying to make this emotional story about the riders and their dragons. So I think the fear going into it was, we better care about Rhaenyra's bond with Syrax if we're ever going to care about Syrax. And so it kind of started there, and then I thought that stuff was really effective. And then lo and behold, the dragons, they look great.
Yeah,
there's tons of character in their animation, and people actually really care about them. Yeah. Linked to and also independent of their riders. So it was sort of working from both ends. So I was really interested in all that. And then I'm a big theme guy, so I'm just really interested in all those thematics. And one of the big things that I was really hammering way back in the crafting of season 1 is we have to feel like these dragons aren't totally in control, because that's how you keep the stakes up for the series. That this idea that you have a nuke, but like it has a brain of its own and has this human sentience to it, and it can just fly out of the silo when it wants and turn on you, turn on the rider, or turn on another dragon.
Yeah,
that stuff was really interesting because it does create this kind of anarchic chaos that feels reminiscent of the very doom. We don't really know what the cause of it was, but the thing that brought down the Valyrian Empire in the first place feels very similar to the warnings that came from that. Feels very similar to the kind of themes and things that are going on in this particular period in the history. So that's stuff that we spend a long time, working on, because you want to ground the dragons and feel like, as Dave Hancock said, they're big stinky warplanes with a need for abundant fuel: sheep, goats, pigs,
right.
all the things that taking the feed away from the people. So all that stuff is sort of interesting on like a building your little civilization board, and the economics of now we're at war, so the dragons are hungrier because they're flying all the time, so they need all the sheep, and then the people don't have food and they get hungry and they don't have wool, and all that stuff gets really interesting. So there's like practical aspects of that, and then there's a kind of meta sort of magic bond thing that makes you care about it. But all that stuff, we've been working very hard at that because it feels like that was something that was particularly unique to House of the Dragon versus Game of Thrones, where dragons were brand new, and every time they flew overhead, everybody had to look up because nobody had ever seen a dragon before.
Right.
Whereas King's Landing, they fly overhead all the time, and it's just, there's a dragon infrastructure. There's dragon keepers and dragon pits and dragon months and saddlery and training and all that, and yes, medical attention too. So as we've learned,
they need it.
They need it.
Yeah.
As I continue to plunge into darkness, I want to ask you. It's really great, guys. I'm so happy.
It's very on theme with season 3, episode 8.
It's true.
Joanna, so I think
it's true.
It's true.
It's working.
This is my own doom that's happening around me. Let's talk about something very dark that happened. Halaena. Poor Halaena goes out the window. We book readers knew it was coming, but it was still, all the work Fia did and the writers did all season to sort of build up to this, I thought was really incredible, and a dramatic visual as well. A couple details. I want to ask about the butterflies and sort of your idea of that metaphor of the butterfly, what Alicent sees, what the hints we got earlier in the season. And then the tapestry of Rhaenyra, which I think I'm interpreting as like her covered in cuts on the throne, which is very Rhaenyra in the book. Is that what we're meant to take from what Rhaenyra sees on Helena's tapestry left by the window?
Well, I'll answer the tapestry one first. I think, I think you should take another close look at the image.
Thank you.
When you can freeze frame it. I have a question for you guys, actually, but just to take a slight detour for a moment. When you get these early screeners, how are you watching them? Are you watching on like a big TV with loudspeakers?
Yes.
Is that possible?
I do.
Or you're not watching on the iPad? Okay.
No, there's an Apple TV app for the screeners app, so we can have it full screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
If I misinterpret,
this really stresses me out because I watch, you watch this thing on like this big mix stage. It's
and
like
I'm
$1 million room you're sitting in. Yeah, and then I'm thinking of these people that are like that are covering the show, watching it on an iPad or on their laptop or something like that. Especially an episode like that.
Let's just pretend I have already gone back and freeze framed and looked at it. Why don't you just pretend that I got it right and tell me what I was looking at?
Well, I think there's a lot to pull out of I think there's a lot of interpretation to pull out of the image. So I don't want to speak to it. I don't think it's helpful to. I think it's more interesting to be left a little up to interpretation. What I will say is that Rhaenyra is not seeing a positive reflection of herself in the tapestry, and I think so much of that final moment that you see with her is her choosing what is she going to do if she actually believes that Halaena is the dreamer that she is, and she's seen the rest of the tapestry. Halaena has been stitching her own demise for quite some time now.
Yeah.
If she chooses to believe that Halaena is this thing that Viserys insisted existed, and Halaena told Rhaenyra that Aemond was at Harrenhal and Aemond was at Harrenhal, then she has to maybe also believe that what she's looking at is her now or a future depiction of her, right? So I think that's the thing that she's struggling with in that final moment. She has to decide what am I going to do with it, and then of course you see her drop it and then close the window, and we go to black. So I think you can. I want to leave some of this stuff up to interpretation because I think that's the fun. But I would just take the tapestry, that the embroidery work and on that and the art that was done. The art department would like draw the image and then send it off to this incredible embroiderer that made the tapestry. And it was just an amazing delight to watch. So it was something that we were really excited about for Halaena across the season, because it was something that was super visual that we could play with and play back to and see her working and not see exactly what she's working on. You get these little snips of it, and then to end the season with this big kind of reveal of what she had been seeing or thinking about before her end.
And the butterflies.
The butterflies. So so many characters over the course of the season are going through this kind of metamorphosis, this transformation. And we knew from Halaena going back to season 1 when she was played by, a different actor, Halaena has an obsession with the insect kingdom.
Right.
And the idea of this season of Halaena kind of going through her own metamorphosis of being very much for her life, a kind of caterpillar in a cage, and then put into this kind of pupal state by being put into Rhaenyra's prison, and being obsessed with they're out of season, all the little snips that you get across the season. And then Sarah actually had this great image of Alys having this premonition at the end while she's on the road back to King's Landing, having seen Halaena deal with these caterpillars over the course of the whole season, seeing this cloud of butterflies come up and just having this. She doesn't know anything, but it's that motherly instinct that something horrible has happened.
Right, yeah.
And we just really liked that image, and we liked the sort of visual metaphor and how it tied back into Helena's character. And her the sort of sad tragedy of it is Halaena setting herself free, finally freeing herself and being given wings is she had to, take her own life and the life of her unborn child in the process.
Right. From one just gentle, lovely soul to another, Daeron.
Yeah.
We longed, we waited, we yearned, and we were rewarded because this is just a wonderful rendering of the character, a wonderful performance. And we are, I don't know, we've had evolutions of who are we shocked to be most invested in. I think for a long time, Larys and Aegon is like our favorite duo to spend time with, was a shock to both of us. But I think we would both say that,
Larys
is
favorite of mine. Yeah.
You're a Larys lady, and you always have been, even though he cowardly tucked tail and ran and claimed that he would make sure that all of Aegon's great deeds. Okay,
or intelligently chose a different
path. Defend him.
Yeah, what was he going to do? He wasn't going to. He wasn't going to fight. It would have been very out of character for him to stand around and die for that.
Exactly. I guess I'm Team Tywin Lannister, which is again a shock to me. But I do think that Gawain and Daeron are just top of the list for us in terms of pairings that we are so just riveted watching and really emotionally invested in at this point. On the Daeron front, he's introduced into the story midway through the series, other than obviously some mentions in season 2. But it's really about, we're setting up in these last few episodes these big things with Daeron. He's a character who's really taking seriously, what does it mean to be a good king? And not performatively, he is earnestly assessing that, right? What went into deciding to make something like Daeron the Daring as his moniker, an Ormond PR play rather than something that Daeron earned out in the field, to keep Targaryen chained in the sept rather than entering battle at this point in the story, and to position Daeron as really at this point one of the few characters in the show who we would credibly believe would say and mean, I have no fear of insignificance. That's not how I make my decisions. That's not how I see what's right and wrong.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That was it's a thrill. I think the Tumbleton story is one of our proud accomplishments this season, just because it was brand new, and to get everybody, ramped up and that invested in just a couple episodes was very exciting to see. And it's a credit to all the performances of those three tremendous actors that played part of that triangle. And when we hired Ben, who's Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who plays Daeron, and alternatively at times also playing an elf in Hyrule.
That's right.
Yep. We needed him for like a little pickup, so the poor kid had to like fly halfway around the world in March to say like one line that we just didn't catch. We didn't have the right angle of him saying one line, so we had to have him come back all the way through from New Zealand.
Get the red wig back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Take off the ears and put on the wig. And but we told him when we cast him that basically Ormund is the domineering father figure in your life, and whether you literal father or stepfather, however you want to look at it, kind of that he plays the father role, and then Gwaine is the kindly older brother who's trying to protect you from the at times abusive father. And that was sort of the basic way that we gave him. But this kid who came in and just a very young actor and just has this incredible worldliness and emotional intelligence to him that could extrapolate from all of that and come up with these little things, and the way he picks at his nails. And that was not something that we gave him. He watched all the shows and picked that up from Allison and said, I want to do the thing that my mother was doing when she was my age. And because that's the way that people will kind of see our connection. And so much of that he brought to the role, and giving him the hair, the hair that makes him look literally like his mother. And just like Kate Rose James casting and just finding these faces that look alike in a way that's they're credibly related. It's just incredible. So we're excited about all that. But then also, like, how do we turn this thing on its head and make, we know that Daeron was the most sympathetic probably of the siblings in the story. Halaena probably as well, but the most sympathetic of the boys is certainly the sons, Alyson's son.
Yeah.
But do we need to just make this kind of Arthurian hero out of him to do that, or is there another way about it that can explore character for both Daeron and then also for Ormond, to realize how he has worked his way close to the throne? Because Ormond is one of these great political operators in the great Thronesian tradition of, my plan is not to be on the throne, my plan is to be standing at the foot of it as your hand, because that is actually where the true power lies.
Right.
And for Ormond to do that, he has to domineer Daeron, control him a little bit, lift him up, make him feel great about himself, knight him when it's important, and also keep his dragon chained up, because the dragon is the thing that's a real threat to Ormond. And certainly I think Ormond would have deployed Tessarion in battle if he had needed to and gotten there in the fight. But I think the feeling was, with Caraxes on the field and then Vermithor showing up, and with Silverwing hopefully in play, Tessarion would really only be under threat at that point. It would kind of be it would seem maybe like a poor Syvass move for him in that case. So it's not. I don't think the plan was never to use and deploy Tessarion. The plan was just to save that piece until he needed it, and to keep Daeron in his place and also alive, because that's all Ormond's power is derived from Daeron being alive and having a claim to the throne.
Right.
Well, the rats have eaten all the tallow and the candles where I am. So I think I'm done. Except, I guess it's not a question. This is my last thing that I'll say. It's not a question. On behalf of House Beesbury, my faves, I need to say that the line "Honey Holt a trifle" really hurt me personally on behalf of House Beesbury. And I just wanted to protest, lodge my complaint from the darkness here.
Gods be good.
Buzzing angrily.
But stinging at you if I could. So yeah.
Sarah had this great joke, and we of just the Beesbury army coming, and they're coming over the hill, and you just hear. You just see all the little shapes come over the hill.
Beware our sting. Yeah.
But yes, I'm very glad that Beesbury got its spotlight in Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It felt like that guy was very proud. That night was very proud to be a member of House Beesbury, and took his bee theme very seriously.
Yes.
Oh my God!
When he came to the tournament,
it's the dyed mustache iconic. It's
incredible.
What an insight into the coffin procedures later. Ryan, thank you
Thank
for
you,
being so
Ryan.
generous with your time. Thank you for joining us. We hope you come back. Come back in season
Thanks,
4.
guys.
Talk to us again.
I'd love to. I'd love to.
I will have a light that time, I promise.
This is it's very Caravaggio. It's becoming very House of the Dragon here. House of the Dragon season 1, maybe.
There you go.
But I would just say to you guys, I just thank you for all the the very passionate coverage that you make for our show, and I think for other shows in the universe. I think the internet has become such a fraught place of kind of rage bait and clickbait these days, that to have a place where you can go, where you can have thoughtful discussion of something, and look, there, with warts and all, kind of, honest sort of debate over the genre work that all of us work so hard to make, is a really, it's just a really good resource to have, because it just feels like there's so many other places where it's just trying to make people either click or click angrily, or some combination of both. So I think this is, I think House of R is just a great resource, and we're all, lucky for it, better for it.
Thanks,
Ryan.
As nerds. The nerds unite.
Thank you, Ryan. Seriously, thank you.
Ryan, the R and Ryan House of R honorary member. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Thank you so much. Okay.
How much did you enjoy the light source constantly draining out of my side of the video on that, Mallory?
As I told you, I thought it was very compelling. Dramatic, moody. I quite liked it. I quite enjoyed it. What a wonderful chat.
Ryan's the best.
Just a complete joy to get to hear all of his insights on the season, all these character arcs, and all of the twists and turns and surprises in the finale. I feel like we got a solid verbal that we'll chat again in season 4, so that's exciting. Already something to look forward to.
I still don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be seeing on that tapestry. I have looked at the freeze frame since he mentioned it. hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com if you have any deeper insights into what is on the tapestry.
And speaking of deeper, we will see you tomorrow evening-ish for the deep dive.
Depending on what time zone you're in.
That's right. On the season 3 finale of House of the Dragon.
Sad.
It is sad. I'll miss it. Season 4, a couple years away.
We have a lot of really cool plans cooking for this fall, though. I'm really excited.
We'll see you then.
Bye.